Again, welcome everyone to today's first press conference for the NCAA Division I FCS Championship. I am joined by North Dakota State head coach Matt Entz, Jabril Cox, Trey Lance, and Derek Tuszka. We'll open with an opening statement with Coach Entz, and then we will direct all questions to our student athletes. Following that, they will be dismissed, and Coach will take over from there. So, Coach, I'll turn it over to you, please.
Thank you. Super excited to be here today, and know that we are going to play an outstanding football team tomorrow in James Madison University. You look at their roster, a ton of talent. They've won some big-time games. They play in a great league, and we're going to have to play at our best to have an opportunity to compete with them, and we look forward to it. Our 14 seniors have been a big part of the reason why we're here this year, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention them before we get into questions. Thank you.
Thank you. At this point, if you have questions for a student athlete, let me know.
Jeff Kopak with the Forum newspaper in Fargo. Trey, weather tomorrow could be, who knows, rainy, windy. How do you deal with that?
We'll be all right. We're from Fargo, so we practice, and I'd like to think the worst. It was about -14 when we left Fargo, so it'll be like a spring game to us. We'll be all right.
Nick Cousin, KVRR, Derek and Jabril, what challenges do Danucci present?
Derek, do you want to go first?
Yeah, he's a good quarterback. Got some experience back there. He makes a lot of plays happen, and he extends plays a lot of times just by his athletic ability and just keeping his eyes downfield. He can feel pressure and escape up the middle, so that's something we got to keep an eye on. But, we've played some athletic quarterbacks as well, so we're excited for the challenge.
Yeah, going off what Derek said, he's a very veteran quarterback, so he's not new to this. He's basically he has the dual threat ability as well. He likes to run around and extend plays. Might not make the smartest of plays, but he'll try to do whatever he has to do to help his team win.
Is there a question up front? Yeah.
Dom Izzo, WDAY. Trey, if you happen to hear your name that you win the Peyton tonight, any thoughts about that if you end up being the player of the year in the division?
It's a huge honor, obviously, to be even in the conversation for that. I've said it before, wouldn't be in it without the coaching staff, the position they put me in to be successful, the guys around me getting to this point in the season, and Zeb and Noah. I got to give a huge shout out to those guys, and Easton, as well, just the guys that came before me. Wouldn't be anywhere in the conversation without those guys, but at the same time, 100% focus on tomorrow.
Back here in the back.
Derek and Jabril, just what do you expect as far as the physicality? Tomorrow's two teams who love to run the ball, two teams who can stop the run. Just what do you expect in that area, and just how important will it be to establish that early on your end?
Yeah, with the physicality, I've said it before, the Missouri Valley, in my opinion, is probably one of the most physical conferences in the country, so it won't be anything new to us. That's definitely something that we have to be the more physical team from start to finish. And then with that, we'll take care of business.
Yeah, this is going to be a game that we're used to. We played all season going through. At the end of the day, it's going to go whoever makes the most mistakes, that's the team that's going to lose. So we just have to make our run fits and just execute our plays.
Up here in the front.
Alex Penzagala at AM 1100, The Flag. I got a question for Trey. How happy are you to have Phoenix Sproles back and just overall your offensive weapons?
Yeah, super happy that Phoenix is healthy. I know he was bummed he couldn't go in the semifinal, but he's feeling really good right now. Everyone's happy. His energy is something that separates him from a lot of guys, even on our roster. He's just a fun guy to be around, one of my best friends, and just super happy for him. I'm excited.
Staying here in the front.
Derek, what's the vibe on a Friday before these title games? Loose, tight, fun, along those lines?
Everybody's locked in and focused. We're here for one reason, that's to win. So everybody, all the coaches, all the players, we're all just locked in, ready to go. in my opinion, this whole week leading up to it is a big distraction. I think we've handled it really well, especially with younger guys, not letting it be too big of a distraction, and ultimately know what we're here for. So.
Another in the. You see right here in the center.
Jackson Roberts, KVR. Derek, how do you tell those younger guys to handle that distraction specifically?
I mean, I've mentioned it to a number of young guys. Enjoy it, take it all in, and don't take any of it for granted. But ultimately, you got to be still watching film, still in the playbook, because you don't want to get too far away from why we're here. We had some incredible opportunities to go to the Miracle League and stuff like that, which was awesome for the younger guys to experience that. Us up front have been there a few times, so we kind of knew what it was going to be like, but just keeping those younger guys on the same page and locked in.
Any additional questions for the student athletes? Oh, I think we have one more.
Trey, what have been your impressions of the JMU secondary on tape? You've obviously done a great job of taking care of the ball this year. What will be the key to doing that against this group?
Just being smart and being prepared. I think, just confidence is key with everything we do offensively. But they're super talented defensively, in the secondary especially. Obviously the two DNs that are two of the best players in the country, especially statistically. They're really good players. I think as a defense they play really well together, really well coached. They're confident, and I think it really shows on film.
Kyle Kenson with Flow Sports. This is for all three of you guys. In terms of team sports, you guys have the most championships as a program since John Wooden's UCLA basketball teams. Does the magnitude of being part of something so historic ever kind of hit you where you realize, what you're a part of?
Jabril, I'll let you take this one first, and we'll go down the line.
I think right now a lot of the guys, we're just living in the moment and just enjoying it. But as we get done with our career, we'll look back on it and we'll see the impact that we have, just not on the state of North Dakota, but as college football as a whole, and we'll really cherish it.
Yeah, it's similar to what Jabril said. Just super thankful for the opportunity to be here, living in the moment. This is all new to me this year, being the first-time starter and everything. So just trying to take it all in and enjoy it.
Yeah, they said it all right there. So.
Any additional questions for our student athletes? One more up front.
Trey, I know maybe I haven't asked you this, but was there a specific moment when you knew you had something with Christian Watson, and was it a game, a practice, where he said, boy, we get on the same page, we can be really, really, really good?
I think even this summer, we got together and he was finally getting, to be really 100% for the first time, since he's been up here. Just his level of focus and maturity, I think, just picked up really from when I met him, when I was on visits here or at North Dakota State. Just his level of athleticism is something that everyone kind of knew, at least on our end. That's why, kind of when you guys talked about the worrying about, the inexperience in the receiver room, that was just something that I didn't really worry about going into this year with guys like Phoenix, Jimmy, and Christian, just because I got to see, how much they had grown up over the course of the last 2 years.
Okay. Any additionals? All right, gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. We'll let them exit, and then we'll direct questions to Coach. Okay, our first question for Coach Matt Entz. Anyone? Take the first one.
Hey, Coach, Dave Thomas from JMU Radio. Now that you're a head coach, this layoff between the semifinal and the championship, was it in any way different for you now that you're a head coach running the program versus just being a coordinator? And how did you try to manage that time?
Well, the first thing was I needed to put together a plan. And so probably our operations coordinator, Josh Cattell, and I, probably before the semifinal game, behind closed doors, had a plan put together for the what-ifs. The calendar year provided some unique challenges because of a 12-game season playing into late December and right up on the heels of Christmas. We wanted to make sure our kids did have a few days off before we started the infamous winter camp that we call it. But it was good. Our kids, we got them back on campus. They enjoy it. We try to keep it somewhat light. It's a great time of the year for us to develop our young kids. I think that's a big reason or a big component of why we've been successful over years is we take full advantage of these days. And our 14 seniors did a great job of leading throughout the extra weeks. But it was a little bit different than what I was used to as far as just how practice was set up, practicing straight through up until this date.
Did you have one right up here?
Same thing I asked Derek. How do you handle the weather today? How are you dealing with that? And possibilities tomorrow of it being not so perfect?
Well, probably have to make some decisions early. Do you take the football instead of deferring to the second half, just with the idea of where's the weather going to be at and how's the weather going to play a role? What the field conditions are. Field conditions are going to be best early in the game. So there's probably always a thought process of do you take the ball right off the bat when your footing is going to be at its best. And then throw the wind in there. And I anticipate it'll come out of the north here in Frisco. And so that always, too, will throw a wrinkle into things. But at the end of the day, both teams are going to play in the same weather. And so we're not going to make any excuses. We need to have great energy and execute like we have all season long. I chuckle when I hear the response of our players. We've played in some bad weather at practice before, and we'll go back to those days if weather does provide some challenges.
What are you doing today?
We're going to practice indoors today. We're going to have just a quick walk through, and of course we'll connect with a lot of our former players today are in town.
Coach there in the second row.
Isaac Dinesen, Bison Information Network. Given the weather conditions for tomorrow, which would you prioritize more? You've talked about these extensively in terms of turnover possession or starting fast, controlling the turnovers and starting quickly. Which would you prioritize more in these type of
I want to start.
conditions?
I want to make sure we start fast tomorrow. I think the team, with the weather, the team that scores first might be able to protect that lead, and you never know. Depends on how poor or good the weather gets. And so I think if we can start fast during the course of the game, I think that gives us a clear advantage.
And then on the other side, how important is it to put pressure on the quarterback?
Well, it's always a critical piece. We need to make sure getting pressure on a quarterback's great, but if he's getting out of the pocket, then it becomes an issue. We need to do a great job of keeping him in the pocket. Our defensive guys are fully aware of Ben's ability to extend plays, find receivers downfield, and he's got some really good ones. So the challenge is up for everybody, from our back end to our front seven.
What makes JMU's defense so special?
I'm sorry, can you just identify yourself really quick?
Sorry, Nick Cousin, KVRR.
I think their front seven, physical. They got two defensive ends that got great inside moves and are going to challenge our offensive tackles. Solid up front in their defensive tackle play. Big physical players, guys that have played a lot of football. You look at their roster, especially on defense, full of juniors and seniors, guys who play in an outstanding league, the CAA, have been in the playoffs. Many of them have been to the national championship game. And then I think their Mike linebacker, I'm going to use number 52. I think his last name's Word. I think he's a really good football player. Jumped off the screen when I was able to watch a lot of the offensive clips.
Yep. I'm going to go to the back.
Coach Bobby Broyles with CA Football. How would you compare and contrast the two conferences? Obviously, you played Delaware this year, JMU in the past. You have Towson on your future schedule, so you have a lot of familiarity with the CAA. How would you compare both the Missouri Valley and the CAA? Well,
Yeah, I don't know if I can. We've only played two teams in my time here, and it's been the same two, JMU and Delaware. I think it's a very talented football league. You just watch the film. It doesn't lie. I think there's a lot of athletes running around, consistent play up front. And Missouri Valley, we pride ourselves on being good on the line of scrimmage, and I think the CAA does as well. And then I think you throw in the mix of four-year transfers or FBS transfers, and that really elevates the talent that's on a lot of the rosters in the CAA.
Back here in the front. Coming to you.
Dom Izzo, WDAY. Is there going to be a moment you will take tomorrow to appreciate first year in the national championship game? Will you do that tomorrow at all?
Probably not tomorrow. You know me, Dom. I'll be wired and ready to go and excited. Probably not really in the mood of talking to a whole lot of people, but I have been reminded by a couple members of our staff to make sure I do enjoy it. It's been full speed ahead. We haven't taken the foot off the gas, and I do appreciate this moment. I appreciate our kids, their approach to practice every day, their chip on their shoulder mentality that I mentioned this morning to them. I thought was a big part of why we're here and why we've had a lot of success during the season.
Jackson Roberts, KVR. Coach, to that end, what's the key to keeping everyone so focused despite how big of a stage this is?
Well, I think part of it is leaning on our seniors who've been here before, who've gone through this process. Once we got to Frisco, we didn't deviate the schedule a whole lot than what it was a year ago. I think just routinely and consistent message that we're going to make the game the main thing. Were there some other events that we enjoyed? The Miracle League, the Barbecue Bowl, yes. But we consistently talked about we were here to win a football game. We were here to compete at the very highest level. And that says a lot about our staff and our seniors, as I mentioned. When you can keep a team that on the calendar is as young as ours right now and as many teenagers that we have with us.
Jeff Kopak, the Forum. Matt, this is probably the youngest team NDSU has had here. Any concerns on them being too tight this week? What have you seen in your team even today?
Sometimes I have the opposite concern. It's not tightness. It's the number of TikTok productions they have. So no, I'm excited. You're exactly right. We do have an extremely young football team based when you look at their date of birth. But we have had some great experience this year. We've played a lot of people, and the way we practice, I think it prepares our kids to play on this stage. I'm not concerned about focus. What I am concerned about at times because of our youthfulness is getting so amped up and so excited that we need a moment to kind of let things slow down for us. And hopefully we can do that during warm-ups and we can kind of get that initial energy out and then reel them back in before kickoff.
Alex Penzagala at AM 1100 of the Flag in Fargo. How pleased have you been with the maturity of your younger players this season?
I've been pleased. Of course, I'd be lying to you if I said they make good decisions all the time or they're always on time or they never miss a class. But overall, when you have as many young kids as we do on the football team right now and newcomers to college football, extremely excited about the race to maturity that we talk about a lot at NDSU. Those guys have shown it. And as the season has prolonged, they've continued to do what we ask and continue to show that they're maturing into what we expect, and that's good Bison.
Eric Peterson, Forum Newspaper in Fargo. If Trey Lance is doing the Peyton Award tonight, why do you think he's deserved it, or what do you think he's done to this point of the season to be able to win an award like that?
Well, I think the numbers speak for themselves. He's starting quarterback for a team that's 15-0. He hasn't turned the football over. He, has, I haven't looked statistically. Probably our leading rusher has done a number of positive things. So if his numbers aren't good enough, I don't think Trey's going to worry about it too much, or neither am I. If you were to ask him, and I know he would tell you the same thing, the only trophy he's worried about is the one that they hand out on the stage over there.
Back here.
Greg Medea, Daily News Record in Harrisonburg. James Madison's two running backs that get the most carries, Ajay Obase and Hamilton. What are the different challenges both of those running backs provide?
Well, physically they provide just a little bit of some differences, in size and makeup. And so, breaking tackles is the one thing that both these guys do an outstanding job. They play behind a veteran offensive line. There's either 2 or 3 seniors on that group, and then I think everyone else is an upperclassman or a junior. We've probably played against a number of them, previously. So, they trust their offensive line. They're going to continue to have a consistent run game, but what it does, it forces you to have to tackle all game long, and that becomes difficult. The same recipe we try to do is keep, force feeding the run game, and eventually one's going to pop, one's going to bust a tackle, and you're going to have an explosive play.
Back here in the front.
Coach Steve Hallstrom, AM 1100 Radio, considering the success that other Bison head football coaches have had here in this game, does it create any additional pressure for you going into this weekend at all?
Not at this time right now. My concern is just to make sure that we're doing everything right on and off the football field. We're going to provide hopefully the best experience that these guys can have being Bison, and that's my number one goal as a head football coach.
Coach back here in the third row.
Wayne Epps with the Richmond Towns Dispatch in Virginia. You mentioned on the teleconference last week that one of your biggest concerns coming in was making sure what you did still looked like Bison football.
Mm-hmm.
So I was curious, with all the success the program has had, you being in the program, just what have been the biggest keys to keeping that fire burning and making sure you're fighting complacency and keeping that success going year after year?
Well, I think the first thing that we always talk about, we always address early in the season is we treat every year as a different year, and there is no carryover. And I'm going to go back to a couple years ago. I had a young man by the name of MJ Stump, and he had won a national championship as a backup. And we asked him, MJ, you won a national championship, and his comment was, Coach, I haven't won one yet. You only win them when you're a starter at NDSU. And I think that's part of the desire of every kid wants to live up to the expectations that our tradition has shown. So we treat every year differently, and this is the last game that the 2019 football team is ever going to play. We're going to look different next year. We look different than we did a year ago. Each team has their own nuances, their own characteristics, and this is a pretty good football team right now that we have. And I think that's part of the way that we avoid complacency as we continue to challenge them to be who they are and to be the best that they can be in that moment right then.
Alex Benzagala, AM 1100, the Flag in Fargo, and they've got some wide receivers in Stapleton and Polk that are explosive. How do you contain them?
Well, we got to do a great job of taking away some of the RPO game, the easy access throws. Riley Stapleton, big time receiving threat. Anytime you're having to defend a wide receiver that's 6'5", and they're going to do a great job of identifying what coverage we're in and trying to see where are we going to roll it to the field, or are they going to roll it back to the X, especially in the 3-by-1 formations. We're going to have to do a good job of trying to disguise some coverages, do some things cat and mouse with the quarterback and give looks pre-snap and then play a different coverage post-snap. We can't have them just have easy throws and easy access, because both those guys can break tackles and do a great job of scoring touchdowns and making big plays for their team.
Coach Dave Thomas of JMU Radio again.
Yep.
Your offensive line, to run the football as successful as you do, starts up front.
Yep.
Tell us about that unit a little bit. What are their strengths, the closeness of the unit on the field, in the classroom, even outside the football complex? Acquaint us with this offensive line a little bit, if you will.
Well, then, if we're going to talk offensive line, let's make sure we understand that they're called the Rams, and that's their nickname, and that's what it's been for a number of years now, and they really appreciate that. If there's one group or position group on our team that represents who we are and where we come from, it's the offensive line. They're an unbelievably tight-knit group, and majority of them all live together, so it's probably about 3 or 4 houses, and we have a lot of legacy in that position group. We have brothers, we have sons of dads who've played at NDSU. There's a lot of built-in pride in that room. Some of the things that you have to love football to play on the offensive line, because you're going to get plenty of reps at NDSU. You're going to get plenty of individual time, plenty of practice. But they have, in my opinion, one of the best offensive line coaches in the country, and A.J. Blazik, and for him to come in a group that had great continuity, but to be able to blend in and be seamless. And then we have the 5 starters are who they are, outstanding football players. But where people don't see it is our 5 guys who are in the wings are just as good as those guys, and so that's why we get excited when we talk about our Rams and the future of Bison football.
Back here in the back.
Katie Harper from The Breeze. You touched already on how strong JMU's defense is, but when it comes down to game planning, how hard is it to prepare for a defense where it's not only the starters that can make a difference, but it's the guys that rotate in as well?
Well, they do get into a number of different sub-packages. They do a good job of, if you're in 11 personnel or a passing situation, they'll get into some, strictly nickel scenarios. So we have to try to find the right matchups and move our playmakers around. And how can we do that? Is it putting different people in the backfield? Is it getting different receivers inside at the X? All the same things that their offense is going to challenge us with as well. But they do a great job defensively. And the thing that you appreciate out of JMU's defense is they don't try to defend you with a quantity of calls. It's the quality of calls that they have. You watch them, you can tell they're well coached. They play extremely hard. And for a group as talented as them, that's what gets scary, is how hard they play during the course of a game.
Back over to your right, Coach.
Yeah, Nick Cousin, KVR. You mentioned Coach Blazek. What impact has he made on this program in his first year?
Well, I think just coming in and taking over what, in my opinion, is besides your defensive coordinator, your offensive line coach at NDSU might be the most important next hire. Because, again, as I mentioned before, that room and that position group really sets the table for who we are as a football team. Our physical nature starts with our offensive line. Our defense has to be physical so they can survive spring ball. And it all, helps. We help one another and we work together. But he's done a great job. We've added some things, some wrinkles offensively. We've tweaked some protections here and there throughout the course of the year. But to have a guy with his experience and his knowledge to come in and to pick up has been really an asset to Tyler Roll and our offensive staff.
Okay. That concludes the press conference. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys.